The Tragic Comedy of the U-190, a submarine nobody wanted, from the World of Warships podcast by Lynn and Dave. Dave told AI, write the story how the U-190 submarine was a Trojan horse. The Germans tried to give it away, but nobody would take it, so they decided to auction it off, and because it's just a spelling from Parkinson's. No one offered any money. They decided to put it in a museum, but it sank on the way to the museum. Write it as a comedy, very funny, but also at times as tragedy and a tearjerker. The Tragic Comedy of the U-190, a submarine nobody wanted, the cursed birth. From the moment the U-190 slid down the slipway in Kiel, things went wrong. The champagne bottle didn't break during the christening. The Admiral's wife, Frau Liesel, gave it 3 awkward taps before shouting, "Oh, for heaven's sake," and hurling it directly at the hull. It ricocheted back and hit the captain in the head. That was the beginning of a series of disasters that followed the U-190 like an overzealous tax collector. Its engines sputtered, its torpedoes misfired, and the crew swore it was haunted. The ship's motto, proudly painted on its side, read, "Durchhalten," persevere, though the crew started calling it Durchschaffen, just drink through it. By the end of the war, the German High Command couldn't give the submarine away fast enough. The Trojan disaster. In a stroke of desperate genius, they hatched a plan. Use the U-190 as a Trojan horse. We shall gift it to our enemies, declared Admiral von Tannenbaum. Let them deal with its misery. First, they offered it to the British. The Brits took one look at it, then politely declined. "We're good, thanks. We have enough problems." Next, they tried the Americans. "It's a state-of-the-art vessel," the Germans insisted. The Americans laughed so hard that one of their admirals fell into Chesapeake Bay. Finally, they approached the Canadians. The Canadians, being polite, considered it for a moment. Then one naval officer whispered, "That thing leaks more than a sieve in a rainstorm," and they also said no. The auction nobody wanted. Out of options, the Germans decided to auction off the U-190. The event was a catastrophe. "Ladies and gentlemen," cried the auctioneer, his voice echoing through the mostly empty dockyard. "A fine German submarine, low mileage, great historical value, starting at 10,000 Reichsmarks." Silence. 5,000? A gull squawked from a nearby pier. "Okay, 1,000. A drunk sailor shouted, "I'll give you a sandwich and a bottle of schnapps." "Sold," cried the auctioneer, mostly out of embarrassment. But the sailor immediately sobered up, realized what he'd done, and ran away, leaving his sandwich behind. The museum idea. In their darkest hour, someone had a bright idea. We'll put it in a museum. Surely people would pay to see a piece of history, so they began towing the U-190 to Hamburg, where it would become the centerpiece of the Museum of Naval Glory. As the submarine was pulled through the North Sea, a storm rolled in, waves battered the ship, and the U-190, true to form, began to leak. "It's fine," shouted the captain. "We'll make it." They didn't. The sinking, just 10 kilometers from Hamburg, the U-190 succumbed to its fate. It sank with a dramatic groan like a whale finally tired of life. The tow crew watched in stunned silence as bubbles rose to the surface. Hans, the former torpedo operator, wept openly. She just couldn't do anything right. Klaus, the sonar officer, sniffled. She wasn't a good submarine, but she was our submarine. Even the towboat captain wiped away a tear. I've seen ships come and go, but this one had a soul, a broken, waterlogged soul. A fitting memorial. The U-190 story didn't end there. The Germans decided to leave it at the bottom of the harbor and put up a plaque instead. The plaque read, "Here lies the U-190, a ship that tried and failed, and tried again and still failed. Rest in pieces." Visitors came from all over to see the sight, not out of respect, but because they couldn't stop laughing at the tragic tale of the submarine nobody wanted. And so the U-190 became a legend, not for its battles, but for its unparalleled ability to be absolutely, hilariously useless.